And actually, Nora, it's a bit of a follow-up. There are some things you needed to realize about, and actually, I don't know if you touched upon how you're earning a living right at this moment.
I'm not. 2 words.
But you're thinking about the idea of a business and...
Yes, yeah, well, and especially in a field like furniture design, which is a bit more market-oriented. And I do identify myself as a sculptor, but I work through the furniture that I make in a lot of ways. I'm struggling very much with the business aspect of it, but I'm getting a little bit better every day with learning how to price my work. And I think I agree with some of the earlier panelists that knowing what your strengths are and who you are and what your work is and where it belongs, et cetera, is very important. And I'm learning all of those things. As I do that, I have been living off of my childhood savings, which I took out after getting out of grad school and which ran out yesterday. Also, my car died yesterday. But no, actually, I do have some, and I have a lot of support from friends and family in terms of commissions through word of mouth, et cetera. And I'm living off of those commissions and hope that, and I'm representing my work in some galleries. I'm also teaching welding at the Steel Yard, which is a community arts organization in Providence, and just continuing to teach and mentor those around me to kind of facilitate them, to do what they love, and for me to do what I love. We all just kind of share resources, just like Sarah was saying, not only in terms of tools, but also in terms of just support systems. And so I have to say that I think financially I wouldn't be able to support myself on exactly what I'm doing at this very moment, and I am taking a gamble. But I'm okay with that right now because I'm confident, and strangely, hitting rock bottom was strangely liberating for me. Is strangely liberating for me at this current time. That I'm okay with being who I am and being in the situation that I'm in, and I'm willing to work for it and to work those 12-hour days.
And actually, I want to preface my other question by sort of Nora's received awards for her work at RISD, but also for teaching, but she wasn't formally teaching. And could you just talk about that? Because, teaching is something that you're actually, is part of.
Right, well, and people have talked a lot about teaching in terms of a good way to provide a base from which to work. And I also think of it as an aspect of life which is hard to discern from your work. Maybe in the same way that motherhood or any other, I didn't mean to pick something that was women-oriented, but, I think that we can learn from teaching, learn from our students, be a part of a community, and that's just the way I work, and that's always been the way I've worked. And while I was in graduate school, I was a teacher's assistant for the undergraduates in the furniture design program, and really became the teacher, the rabbi, the whatever. That was my role. And although I wasn't actually the teacher officially, I was always teaching. And I think that's, in a way, it's just another role. And I still consider myself to be in that role, even though I'm not technically teaching at a university right now, and I'm not technically even attending a university right now. I think it's still part of what I do.
And to both of you, how is your work evolving since graduate school? And how are you kind of staying, generating ideas, supporting yourself that way?
I was hoping you were going to talk about that.
If you'd like. Okay. Well, my work has changed pretty drastically since I was at Smith. And grad school was a very intense, very rough road for me that ultimately was really successful, and I'm pleased with what I got out of it, but it was a very, very hard 2 years. I had mentioned earlier, I had some professors who felt it was their job to not like anything I showed them, and they made that very clear, literally by saying, "I will never like anything you show me." And I kind of thought, well, let's never meet again. I know what you're going to say. But ultimately kind of reached a point where I started making what I liked. I like dressing up in costumes, and I like sci-fi, and I like glitter and trash. And so maybe that's what I make. And knowing that those are the things I love and staying connected with those things has been how I continue to make work. And academic research and reading have been a huge part of that, as well as writing. Writing has become very important because it is something that's relatively portable. I can do it on my commute. And even if I'm not making work at that moment, I'm working towards something. I'm writing stuff down. And just learning to take those little moments and accumulate them into work.
I could learn from you. But those are all really good points. And I think one of the best, I'll come back, but one of the best things one of my teachers ever said to me was just sketch for 4 hours. Just do it. Just sketch for 4 hours. And that's a good thing to do. I think that what I was doing here at Smith was, especially towards the end, really based on what I was speaking about before in terms of kind of providing a space for people to feel at ease and to relate with one another. And in a lot of ways, that's what a home is. That's what a domesticated environment is. And I just took that further in my graduate work. In some ways, I think I'm sort of returning to what I was interested in at Smith, and able to re-examine that now that I have time to do that. But one of the most interesting kind of routes that I had to take before that was the technical and those other skills that I had that time to learn. So I think that it's interesting to sort of look back on your work and pick up threads again, and to realize as a tool of self-reflection what your strengths are and what your passions are and what makes you unique in terms of your work, and that will take you farthest, or I think that will be your strongest work. And so I continually was looking back at my work that I'd made at Smith College and thinking, well, what was successful about the pieces that I did like, and why do certain things pull at my heartstrings and others don't? And I'm just going to have to respond to that and try to continue to do that kind of work.
How are you getting the word out about what you do? I know you both have websites, but
talk about that. You want me to go first? I am continually applying to jobs and residencies as often as I can through, my research of what's going on in the art world and in the world of art education on a collegiate level. But it's actually been more through, word of mouth and just kind of friends, people I know. A friend of mine from Smith College has begun a gallery in Manhattan and is sort of representing me, I guess, through that. And so that sort of thing has been really crucial.
And in Chicago, that community that I stayed for has really been important in kind of creating a scene. There's the Chicago gallery scene, but then there's a lot of apartment galleries. There's a lot of grassroots DIY things happening, and also meeting young curators and young critics who are looking to get their start, and working with them to make shows and talk about shows and talk about work and talk about art. That's really been the basis of what I'm doing right now.
So we're going to turn the lights on and start a question and answer period for about 10 to 15 minutes. So again, please raise your hand high, and microphone will hopefully find you.
I'll jump in and ask the first question.
I was just curious if either of you could comment on the kind of support you've had from your families or what they thought of it when you made these decisions. Because for my family, even going into being an arts administrator sounded scary for them. So I'd be interested to hear you talk a little bit about that.
I wouldn't be here if it weren't for my family. Absolutely, 100%. I was considering law school, and I said to my parents that I was going to take the LSATs, and it's a pretty reasonable path to take. And my father said, "What about your sculpture?" I'm blessed. Financially, I think I am somewhat more dependent upon others, such as my parents, than I would like to be. Not 100%. When I came out of Smith College, I was completely supporting myself, paying the bills, doing the work, and going back to get my MFA was a real decision. I knew it would change everything, and I had to have their approval to do that, because I was, to some extent, relying on just even the knowledge that if something were to go wrong and I, get hit by a bus and I don't have health insurance, my parents probably will make sure that I'm put on life support.
Sarah?
Yeah. Oh, my parents support me. They don't understand what I do. The video thing is very strange for them. After watching my MFA video, they said, "I really liked your sculpture." But they are there for me, and they are there financially for me if I needed them, which is incredibly wonderful, and I'm very lucky to have.
Sarah, was the brutality of your professors Socratic or just brutal?
Well,
Was it?
I think it felt a little like a trial by fire, and although it felt very personal often, I think it wasn't always personal. It was those professors believed that's what they were there to do. And coming out of school, my fellow students that I respect also had a similar road of it being really rough, of it feeling like a perpetual crisis. And so although I am just positive there's got to be a better way to do it, it seems like that's grad school. Does that answer your question?
Something that you said to me was that, and you said this before to some extent, that very exact professor who said, "I will never like what you do," started to like what you do once you stopped caring whether he liked what you did. And who knows whether that was intentional or not on his part, probably not. But I think there is something to be said for a professor maybe saying, "Don't show me what you think I want to see. Show me what you can do."
It was a really valuable lesson. I don't know that that's the way I would prefer to have it taught to me.
Agreed.
But yeah, I mean, ultimately, when I started making what I wanted to do, the response was more favorable, and more importantly, I was interested in what people had to say. I was interested in a conversation, but I kind of didn't care to some extent. I liked it, and I was proud of it, and I wanted to hear what they thought about it, but whether they liked it wasn't important.